The morning light on Crystal X Prime was always perfect. It never changed, never grew too hot or too cold. The crystal towers of the Coalition Council reached toward the pale blue sky like frozen music. For 3,000 years this world had been the center of peace in the galaxy. Ambassador Zexai moved through the crystal halls with quick, worried steps. His body was made of living glass that normally glowed with calm blue light. Today, the light flickered red and orange with fear. In his hands, he carried a datapad that contained the worst news the galaxy had seen in centuries. The council chamber was already full when he arrived. 12 different alien species sat around the great crystal table. Each one represented billions of peaceful beings who had never known war, hunger, or real danger. Their worlds were gardens in space, protected by technology and treaties that had kept them safe for longer than some civilizations had existed. Admiral Korthok spread his thin, rainbow wings as Zexai entered. The bird-like being from the Winged Confederacy was old, even by his people's standards. He had lived through the last war with the Devourers back when they were just mindless bugs that ate everything in their path. "The reports are confirmed," Korthok asked in his singing voice. HAX, single quotes HA, placed the datapad on the table. The crystal surface lit up with star maps showing the outer edge of the galaxy. Red dots marked dead systems, places where stars had been snuffed out like candles. 47 systems have gone dark in the past month, Zexai said. His voice made the crystal walls ring like bells. The 7th barrier has fallen. The Devourers have broken through. A wave of fear passed through the chamber. The 7th barrier had been built after the last war, a line of automated defense stations that stretched across space like a wall. It had held the Devourers back for 600 years. Secretary Velanara of the Peaceful Gardens rose from her seat. Like a walking flower, with petals for hair and skin that changed color with her emotions. Right now, she was pale white with terror. "This cannot be right," she said in her soft voice. "The barriers were designed to last forever. Our best minds built them. Our strongest ships guard them." "The barriers are gone," Admiral Korthok said, his wings drooping. "I've seen the reports from our scout ships. The Devourers are not the same as before. They have changed. They've grown smart." The hologram above the table showed the last transmission from Defense Station Omega-7. The massive battle station, bigger than most moons, had been humanity's gift to the Coalition after first contact. It was armed with weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. In the recording, they watched as strange bioships swarmed around the station. The ships looked alive, like giant space whales covered in teeth and tentacles. But they moved with purpose, working together in ways that made no sense for simple animals. The station's weapons fired again and again. Each shot destroyed hundreds of bioships. But more kept coming, and worse, they were learning. Each wave of attackers avoided the weapons that had killed the wave before. Soon, the bioships were slipping through the defenses like they had never existed. The last thing that recording showed was the station being consumed. The bioships attached themselves to the metal hull and began to eat. The station's armor, built from materials that could survive in the heart of a star, melted away like ice in summer. "They adapt," whispered Dr. Trinixie from the medical collective. The insect-like beings' compound eyes reflected the horrible scene. "They learn from what kills them and become immune. How do we fight an enemy that grows stronger each time we attack?" The chamber fell silent. For all their technology and wisdom, the Coalition had never faced anything like this. Their wars were fought with clean energy weapons and smart tactics. They had rules about avoiding civilian targets and minimizing damage. Their whole way of thinking was based on the idea that problems could be solved through careful planning and advanced technology, but the Devourers did not follow rules. They did not care about civilian targets because they ate everything equally. And their technology was not built. It was grown, evolved, adapted from the remains of everything they consumed. Admiral Korthak activated his personal communicator. "Fleet Command, give me the current status of all defense forces." The reply came quickly, crackling with static from the battle zones. "Admiral, we have lost 60% of our ships in the outer sectors. The remaining fleets are in full retreat. Our weapons are becoming less effective with each engagement. The enemy adapts to our attack patterns within hours. How long? Velinara asked, though she clearly did not want to know the answer. At current rate of advancement, the Devourers will reach the core worlds in 6 months, the voice from Fleet Command said. Maybe less if they continue to adapt at this rate. 6 months. In 6 months, worlds that had known peace for millennia would be consumed. Trillions of beings who had never even seen violence would be devoured by creatures that turned everything. They touched into more of themselves. Zexai looked around the chamber at his fellow council members. He saw fear in every face, but also something else. Determination. The coalition had survived for 3,000 years by working together, by combining the best of 12 different civilizations. We must call for help, he said. Send the deep space distress protocol to every system in the galaxy. Someone out there might have knowledge or weapons we do not. Dr. Trinoxius' antennae twitched with doubt. But who would answer? We are the most advanced civilization in known space. Our technology surpasses everything we have encountered. Then we look beyond known space, Admiral Korthak said. His voice carried the weight of command that had guided fleets through peaceful times. We send the signal everywhere. To the dead zones, the hostile sectors, even the regions we have marked as uninhabitable. The Deep Space Distress Protocol had never been used before. It was created as a last resort, a way to call for help when all hope was lost. The signal would broadcast on every frequency, carrying the Coalition's plea for aid to every corner of the galaxy. Velinara activated the protocol from her position at the council table. The crystal chamber filled with a low humming as transmitters across the galaxy began sending the message into space. This is the Galactic Coalition Council broadcasting on all frequencies. We are under attack by an enemy that threatens all life. In the galaxy, the entity known as the Devourers has broken through our defenses and is consuming entire star systems. We request immediate assistance from any civilization capable of rendering aid. Our coordinates are attached. Time is running short. The message repeated in over 1,000 languages, including mathematical concepts that any intelligent species should be able to understand. It went to trading partners and distant allies, to unexplored regions and empty space, 2 systems marked. On their charts with warnings about dangerous conditions for 3 days, the only responses came from Coalition member worlds offering what help they could. Ships, weapons, supplies. Everything they had was already being used. They needed something new, something different. Something the Devourers had never encountered before. On the 4th day, a signal came from a system in the outer spiral arm. The region was marked on Coalition charts as Sol System, uninhabitable. Death worlds with toxic atmospheres and dangerous radiation levels. No intelligent life was expected to exist there. The message was short and transmitted in perfect, as Coalition standard. Message received. Help is coming. Admiral Korthak stared at the transmission data. The signal came from the 3rd planet in that system. According to our surveys, it is a water world with a poisonous atmosphere and violent weather patterns. Nothing should be able to live there, yet something does, Zexai said, his crystal body flickering with new light. And whatever it is, it speaks our language and promises help. In the depths of space, unknown ships began moving toward the Coalition's coordinates. They came from a blue world wrapped in storms, from a species that had learned to survive in conditions that would kill most. Galactic civilizations, before they ever developed spaceflight, the Coalition had asked for help from anyone who could provide it. They had no idea that they had just contacted the most dangerous species in the galaxy, one that had earned its strength. By surviving on a world that tried to kill it every single day, the space around Coalition Station Alpha had never seen anything like it. The massive human ship dropped out of hyperspace without warning, its dark hull blocking out the light of nearby stars, where Coalition vessels were built with smooth curves. In gleaming metal, this ship looked like it had been carved from a mountain and thrown into space. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the alien station through the main view screen. The Coalition facility was beautiful in its own way. all crystal spires and flowing lines that caught and reflected light like a piece of art floating in the void. "Sir, we are receiving over 300 scanning attempts," reported Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez from her position at the communications console. Her fingers danced over controls that were built to work even if half the bridge was destroyed. "Their sensors cannot penetrate our hull composition," Morrison nodded. Human ships were not built for beauty or efficiency like the alien vessels. He could see docked at the station. They were built to survive. The Defiant's hull was made from metals forged in Earth's deepest ocean trenches, where the pressure could crush submarines like tin cans. Its armor plating came from materials tested in the acid storms of Venus and the radiation fields around Jupiter. "Open a channel," Morrison ordered. "Let them know we are responding to their distress call." The response from the station was immediate, but Morrison could hear the fear in the alien voice that spoke perfect English. "Unknown vessel, please identify yourself and state your intentions. You are approaching a restricted diplomatic zone. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earth Ship Defiant. We received your distress call about the Devourer threat. We are here to help." There was a long pause. Morrison could imagine the chaos on the alien station as they tried to figure out what to do with visitors from a system they had written off as lifeless. "Please, Docket Bay 12, the voice finally said. "Our council is waiting to meet with you." As the Defiant moved toward the docking bay, Morrison studied the other ships berthed at the station. They were incredible pieces of technology, sleek and advanced in ways that made Earth's best ships look primitive. But they were also clean, unmarked by battle or hardship. They looked like they had never faced real danger. Dr. Lisa Park joined Morrison at the view screen. She was humanity's best xenobiologist and had volunteered for this first contact mission despite knowing she might never return home. Her sharp eyes took in every detail of the alien vessels. "Look at the hull thickness," she murmured. "Those ships are built for exploration and trade, not combat. And the crew areas are huge. They must need perfect environmental conditions to survive." Morrison understood what she meant. Human ships were cramped, uncomfortable places where every inch of space was used for weapons, armor, or life support systems that could keep working even when half of them were destroyed. These alien ships looked like luxury hotels that happened to travel between stars. The docking process was smooth, handled by automated systems more advanced than anything Earth had ever built. As the airlock sealed and pressure equalized, Morrison felt the familiar weight of responsibility that came with representing his species to the galaxy. The delegation that waited for them in the docking bay made Morrison's security team tense. Up immediately, the aliens were like nothing from Earth, crystalline beings that glowed with inner light, insect-like creatures with rainbow wings, and flower people whose skin changed color as they watched the humans emerge from their ship. The reaction was immediate and unmistakable. The aliens stepped back, their bodies showing clear signs of fear and revulsion. The crystal beings flickered to dark red. The winged ones folded their wings tight against their bodies, and the flower people turned pale white. "Deathworlders," whispered one of the aliens in its own language, but the translation software made sure every human heard it clearly. Dr. Park studied the aliens with professional interest, noting how they moved, how they held themselves, how they reacted to the humans. "Fascinating," she said quietly to Morrison. "Look at their bone structure, their muscle development. These species evolved on worlds with light gravity, stable climates, no natural predators. They have never had to fight to survive." "Ambassador?" Zexai stepped forward, his crystal body flickering with nervous energy. Despite his fear, he was trying to be diplomatic. "Welcome to Coalition Station Alpha. We are grateful for your response to our distress call, though we must admit we did not expect anyone from the Sol system to answer." "Why not?" Morrison asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "Our surveys indicated that your system contained only hostile environments unsuitable for intelligent life," Admiral Korthak said, his voice singing like wind chimes. "Toxic atmospheres, violent weather, dangerous radiation levels, crushing gravity. We classified it as uninhabitable." Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up from behind Morrison. That is where we live. Earth is our home. The silence that followed was heavy with implications. These peaceful aliens, with their advanced technology and perfect worlds, could not imagine how anything intelligent could survive in conditions that humans considered normal. Secretary Velinara found her voice first. You live on a planet that, our computers say, should kill any living thing in ours. How is this possible?
Dr. Park stepped forward,
her scientific mind already working on how to explain human evolution to beings who had never faced real hardship.
Our world shaped us over millions of years. Everything on Earth is dangerous. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the ground itself. We learned to survive by becoming stronger, faster, and smarter than the things that tried to kill us. Gestured to Morrison and the other humans. Look at us compared to you. We have thick bones to handle high gravity, dense muscle to fight and run, forward-facing eyes to hunt predators, and brains that work best under stress. We are built for a world that tries to kill us every day. The aliens looked at the humans. With new understanding, what they had first seen as terrifying monsters, they now recognized as the product of the harshest evolutionary environment imaginable. Every human trait that frightened them was a survival adaptation earned through millions of years of struggle. Dr. Trinoxi, the insect-like being from the medical collective, clicked her mandibles nervously. Your species evolved under maximum selective pressure. Only the strongest, most adaptable individuals survive to reproduce. That is right, Morrison said. And now you have a problem that your peaceful evolution has not prepared you for. You need someone who knows how to fight an enemy that adapts and evolves. Admiral Korthok spread his wings in a gesture that Morrison's cultural briefing had taught him meant serious consideration. We have read your species' response to our distress call. You said help was coming. What kind of help can you offer? Morrison activated a portable holographic projector. The image that appeared showed the battle-scarred hull of a human destroyer, its armor marked with acid burns and projectile impacts from dozens of different conflicts. This is the UES Retribution, Morrison said. It has fought in every major human conflict for the past 50 years, has been destroyed and rebuilt 7 times. Its crew has fought enemies that used biological weapons, computer viruses, nuclear attacks, and things we do not have names for. The aliens stared at the image with a mixture of fascination and horror. The ship looked like it had been through hell and kept fighting. Every human ship, every human soldier, every human strategy is built around one simple idea, Morrison continued. We assume we are going to face something stronger, smarter, and more advanced than we are. We plan for the worst possible situation and then prepare for something even worse. Zexai's crystal form flickered as he processed this information. Your entire civilization is based on preparing for extinction. Yes, Dr. Park said simply, because extinction is always possible. The universe is dangerous, and survival is not guaranteed. The only way to live is to be ready to fight for it. The coalition delegation looked at each other, understanding beginning to dawn in their minds. They had spent 3,000 years building a peaceful civilization. But they had forgotten that peace was a luxury that had to be defended. We accept your offer of assistance, Admiral Korthok said formally. But we must warn you, the Devourers have destroyed our most advanced fleets. They adapt to our weapons and tactics faster than we can change them. They may be more dangerous than anything your species has ever faced. Morrison smiled, and the expression made several aliens step back. Human smiles, they realized, showed too many teeth. Admiral, he said, we come from a world where everything tries to kill us. We've been fighting extinction-level threats since before we learned to make fire. This is what we do. As the human delegation was escorted deeper into the station. For formal talks, word spread quickly through the coalition communications networks. The mysterious signal from the Sol system had not been a trick or a mistake. An entire civilization had been living and thriving in conditions that the galaxy's most advanced species could not survive. The Deathworlders had arrived, and everything was about to change. The first joint battle happened at the Kilo system, where 30 coalition ships had been trapped by a Devourer swarm for 6 days. The alien vessels were running out of power and supplies, hiding behind a gas giant's moons, while hundreds of bioships hunted them through the asteroid fields, Captain. Ryan Odell stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution as it dropped out of hyperspace with the rest of the human fleet. 12 human ships against over 400 Devourer bioships. By Coalition standards, it was suicide. By human standards, it was Tuesday. Sir Admiral Korthok is requesting a tactical conference before we engage, reported Ensign Bobby Chen from the communications station. He wants to coordinate our attack patterns with their defensive positions. Odell looked at the tactical display showing the enemy formation. The Devourers had learned from their battles with the Coalition. Their bioships were positioned to counter the aliens' energy weapons and smart missiles. They had adapted just like the reports said they would. "Tell the Admiral we appreciate his concern," Odell said, "but we will handle this our way. Have all Coalition ships fall back to minimum safe distance and observe." On the Coalition command ship Starlight Harmony, Admiral Korthok received the human message with confusion and growing alarm. The beautiful, bird-like alien spread his rainbow, wings in distress as he watched the human ships advance directly toward the enemy swarm. "They are not using any tactical formations," his tactical officer reported. "Their ships are spreading out but maintaining no defensive pattern. They appear to be charging directly at the enemy." Korthok had studied human military history during the past week, trying to understand how these Deathworlders fought their wars. What he had learned terrified him. Humans did not fight to win battles. They fought to destroy enemies completely, no matter the cost to themselves. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a small sun. Coalition energy weapons were precise and efficient, designed to disable enemy ships with minimal damage. Devourer bioships fired living projectiles that adapted to whatever they hit, growing stronger with each impact. Human weapons were different. The Retribution's main guns fired, solid metal slugs accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. When they hit a bioship, the impact did not just destroy the target, it vaporized everything within 100 meters and sent deadly fragments spinning through the enemy formation. "Barbaric," whispered Secretary Velinara from her position on the Coalition command bridge. "They are using kinetic weapons that cause massive collateral damage." But the human weapons worked. The Devourer bioships had adapted to energy weapons. By developing shields and armor that could absorb and redirect those attacks, they had never encountered anything like mass-driven projectiles that simply punched through everything in their path. The bioships tried to adapt to the new threat, but human tactics made it impossible. Where Coalition fleets used predictable attack patterns that could be learned and countered, human ships fought like wild animals, each one making independent decisions based on the immediate situation. The UES Defiant suddenly broke formation and dove straight into the heart of the enemy's swarm. It's Captain Jake Morrison. It spotted something the alien sensors had missed, a larger bioship that was coordinating the other's movements. "Sir, we are taking heavy damage," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez as the ship shook under enemy fire. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. We have lost main power to the forward sections." Morrison did not even slow down. "All hands prepare for ramming speed. Target the coordination node at the center of their formation." On the Coalition ships, the aliens watched in horror as the human vessel continued its attack run, even as pieces of it were blown away by enemy fire. The Defiant's hull was glowing red from heat and acid damage, its armor melting under the biological weapons of the Devourers. "They are going to ram the enemy ship," Admiral Korthok said in disbelief. "They will be destroyed," yes, Dr. Lisa Park said from her position on the Coalition command bridge. "But they will take the enemy command ship with them, and that will disrupt the entire swarm's coordination." At the last second, the Defiant fired every weapon it had directly into the bioship's core, then pulled away as the enemy vessel exploded. In a burst of green flame, the human ship survived, but barely. Its hull was breached in a dozen places and it was leaking atmosphere into space. The destruction of the command bioship had exactly the effect Morrison had predicted. The Devourer swarm lost its coordination and the individual ships began acting on their own instead of working together. That was when the rest of the human fleet struck. Captain Sarah Lewis of the EU's Hammer led the second wave. Her ship followed by 5 others in a formation the coalition had never seen before. Instead of staying together for mutual protection, the human ships separated and attacked from 6 different directions at once. They are dividing their forces in the face of superior numbers, Korthek's tactical officer reported. Every principle of space combat, but it worked. The Devourers had adapted to fight concentrated enemy formations. When faced with attacks coming from everywhere at once, their bioships could not coordinate an effective response. Each group had to fight independently, which meant they could be defeated in detail. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Coalition had ever witnessed. Human ships fought with a ferocity that shocked their alien allies. When the UES Thunder lost its main engines, its crew used maneuvering thrusters to continue the attack. When the UES Storm's weapons were destroyed, its captain used the ship itself as a missile, evacuating the crew in escape pods before ramming a cluster of bioships. Sergeant Carlos Mendez led the first human ground assault team onto a damaged Devourer bioship. The Coalition had never attempted to board enemy vessels. Their warriors were too. It's valuable, and their technology could handle most threats at a distance. Humans fought differently. Mendez and his squad of 12 Marines cut their way through the bioship's living hull with plasma torches and shaped charges. The interior of the vessel was like nothing from Coalition experience, a maze of organic passages that pulsed with alien life. "Contact front," shouted Corporal Ana Garcia as the first Devourer warriors emerged from the ship's depths. The creatures were nightmares of evolution, all teeth and claws and acid-dripping appendages that could dissolve human armor in seconds. The Marines opened fire with weapons designed to work in the cramped confines of ship-to-ship combat. Their bullets were specially made to fragment inside targets without penetrating the hull beyond. Each shot released tiny metal particles that tore through living tissue like microscopic saw blades. On the Coalition command ship, Dr. Trinoxi watched the human Marines fight hand-to-hand with creatures that her own species would consider invincible. "How are they still functioning?" she asked, as she watched Sergeant Mendez continue fighting, even after losing his left arm to a Devourer warrior's acid attack. "Their pain receptors should have rendered them unconscious." Dr. Park provided the answer while monitoring the battle from the command center. "Pain is just information to humans. It tells us we are injured, but it does not stop us from fighting. We evolved on a world where stopping to deal with pain meant death." The human Marines fought their way to the bioship's core, where they planted demolition charges designed to destroy the vessel from the inside. As they fought their way back to the extraction point, Mendez coordinated the defense with one arm, while using his remaining hand to fire his weapon. "Extraction in 30 seconds, Garcia reported as she provided covering fire for the wounded sergeant. "Can you make it, sir?" Mendez smiled through the pain. "I've walked farther than this with worse injuries back on Earth. Move out." Da-da-da-da-da. The bioship exploded just as the last human Marine reached safety, its destruction sending shockwaves through the remaining Devourer fleet. The creatures had never faced an enemy willing to board their ships and fight them in close combat. Their bio-vessels were designed to be impregnable fortresses, not battlegrounds. When the battle ended 4 hours later, the Devourer swarm was completely destroyed. The Coalition fleet had suffered no losses, though several ships needed repairs from the fragments of destroyed bioships. The human fleet had lost 2 ships completely, and had 6 others so badly damaged they would need to return to Earth for rebuilding. Admiral Korthok met with Captain Odell after the battle, trying to understand what he had witnessed. "Your tactics violate every principle of space warfare," he said. "You divided your forces. You attacked superior numbers. You risked everything on desperate maneuvers." Odell nodded calmly. "That is because you fight like you have never truly faced extinction. Every human battle doctrine assumes we are outnumbered, outgunned, and probably going to die. We plan for the worst-case scenario and then train for something even worse than that." The Coalition officers looked at the damaged human ships with new understanding. These vessels had been built to keep fighting even when they were falling apart. Their crews had been trained to continue their mission even when victory seemed impossible. The Devourers adapt to whatever they fight, Korthok said slowly, but they have never fought anything like humans before. The war against the Devourers had lasted 8 months and stretched across 40 star systems. Billions had died, entire worlds had been consumed, and the galaxy had learned what it meant to fight for survival. No, only one target remained. The Devourer Home Cluster, a nightmare region of space where the creatures had turned 12 star systems into massive breeding grounds. General Amanda Foster stood in the command center of the Coalition flagship, surrounded by holographic displays. Showing the enemy's stronghold, the space around her was filled with the combined fleet, 300 Coalition ships, and 80 human vessels. Everything both civilizations could spare for this final assault. The plan was simple and terrible. Human ships would serve as living shields, while Coalition vessels delivered planet-killing weapons to the heart of the swarm. The computers had run the numbers 1,000 times, and the result was always the same. Projected casualties for the human fleet are 70%, reported AI Tactical Coordinator Zara Bishop, her electronic voice carrying no emotion as she delivered the death sentence for thousands of human sailors. Coalition losses are estimated at 12%.
Buster
Nodded without hesitation. Around her, Coalition officers watched in amazement as she accepted numbers that would have ended any war their species had ever fought. To them, 70% losses meant complete military failure. To humans, it meant victory was possible. All human captains volunteered for this mission. Foster said to Admiral Korthok, who had become humanity's closest alien ally during the Long War, "They understand what we are asking them to do." Captain Jake Morrison of the UES Defiant had been one of the first to volunteer. His ship had been rebuilt 3 times during the war, and his crew had become legends among both humans and aliens. When the final battle plan was announced, every member of his crew had signed up again, even knowing they would probably not survive. "Sir, we are receiving the final coordination signals from the fleet," reported Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez. Her voice was steady, professional, but Morrison could see the fear in her eyes. She was 23 years old and had never seen Earth except in pictures. "Send our response," Morrison ordered. "All stations report ready for final assault." The Devourer home cluster was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The creatures had consumed the planets of 12 star systems and used the raw materials to build massive biostations that floated in space like living cities. Each station was the size of a moon and covered with weapons that could destroy fleets. Worse, the space between the stations was filled with millions of bioships. The Devourers had learned from every battle, adapting and evolving until they had created the perfect defense. No conventional attack could penetrate their formations. That was why the plan called for something unconventional. The human fleet moved first, accelerating toward the outer edge of the cluster at maximum speed. Behind them came the Coalition vessels, their energy weapons charging for the shots that would end the war. The Devourers responded exactly as expected. Millions of bioships poured out of the cluster like angry insects, moving to intercept the attackers. They had learned that destroying the human ships first was always the best strategy. Since Coalition vessels were easier to handle without their Deathworlder allies, the first wave of bioships hit the human formation. Like a tsunami of living death, the Use Thunder, leading the left flank, disappeared in a ball of acid and bioplasma. The Use Lightning lasted 30 seconds longer before its hull dissolved under concentrated fire from 100 different weapons. But the human ships kept coming. As each vessel died, its crew sang the old songs from Earth, battle hymns that had been carried from the trenches of ancient wars to the stars themselves. Their voices echoed across the communication channels, heard by every ship in the fleet. On the Coalition vessels, alien crews listened to the human death songs with growing understanding. These Deathworlders were not just fighting to win, they were fighting to ensure that something would survive. Even if they did not, the UES Hammer broke through the first defensive line, its hull glowing red from heat and corrosion. Captain Sarah Lewis kept her ship on course, even as the bridge filled with smoke and half her crew lay dead at their stations. Weapons offline, engines failing, life support at 20%, her surviving tactical officer reported. Orders, ma'am? Lewis looked at the tactical display showing the path to their target. One of the massive biostations that coordinated the Devourer defenses. All hands prepare for ramming speed. We are going to take that station with us. Hammer's final charge lasted 3 minutes. The ship absorbed enough firepower to destroy a small fleet, its armor boiling away under weapons that had been perfected through centuries of evolution. But it reached its target, and when it died, the explosion took the biostation and everything. Around it, Commander Nathan Cross piloted his fighter squadron through the chaos of the main battle, leading 12 pilots against impossible odds. His ship was one of the small, fast vessels that humans used for reconnaissance and harassment. Against the massive bioships, it should have been useless. But Cross had learned something during the Long War. The Devourers were individuals, despite their swarm behavior. Each bioship had a pilot, a creature that made decisions and felt fear. Humans were very good at making other things afraid. Stay tight and follow my lead, Cross ordered his squadron as they dove into the heart of the enemy formation. We are going to show these bugs what happens when they threaten Earth. The fighters scattered through the bioship swarm like deadly wasps, too small and fast for the larger vessels to target effectively. But they were not trying to destroy ships. They were hunting for the queen vessels, the massive bioships that gave orders to all the others. Kraus found his target hiding behind a wall of smaller ships. The queen was 10 times the size of his fighter, covered in weapons that could vaporize his ship with a single shot. He did not care. For Earth, for the Coalition, for tomorrow, he said into his communicator as he aimed his fighter at the Queen's command center. His ship's engines redlined as he pushed them beyond their design limits, racing toward the target as enemy fire filled the space around him. The collision destroyed both ships instantly, but the death of the Queen sent shockwaves through the entire Devourer fleet. Suddenly, thousands of bioships lost their coordination, milling around in confusion as they waited for orders that would never come. That was when the Coalition strike force made its attack. While the human fleet absorbed the enemy's attention and firepower, the alien vessels had moved into position around the cluster's edge. Now they unleashed weapons that had been designed to crack planets and boil away atmospheres. The biostations began to die one by one, their living hulls unable to survive the focused energy of the Coalition's most powerful weapons. Each station that died sent waves of destruction through the surrounding bioships. As the creatures' interconnected nervous systems overloaded from the psychic shock, General Foster watched the battle from the Coalition command ship, surrounded by displays showing the death of both fleets. The human casualties were even worse than predicted. 85% of their ships had been destroyed or disabled. But the plan was working. Final phase, she ordered. All remaining ships converge on the central cluster. We end this now. Last stage of the battle was the worst. Surviving Devourers, driven mad by the loss of their queens and stations, threw themselves at the combined fleet in a desperate final assault. Ships died on both sides as the two forces tore each other apart in the space between the stars. When the last bioship finally stopped moving, the silence was deafening. The Devourer home cluster was gone, reduced to debris and radiation. The threat that had consumed 47 star systems was finally ended, but the price had been terrible. Of the 80 human ships that entered the cluster, only 12 survived. Thousands of Coalition vessels were damaged or destroyed. The galaxy was safe, but the cost of that safety would be remembered forever. Admiral Korthok found General Foster in the medical bay of the command ship, where she was visiting wounded soldiers from both fleets. The bird-like aliens' rainbow wings were folded in a gesture of deep respect. Your people saved us all, he said quietly. So many died. How do you bear such losses? Foster looked up from the bedside of a young human pilot who would never walk again, because the alternative was worse. If we had failed here, the Devourers would have consumed the entire galaxy. Every human who died today saved billions of lives that will never know their names. The victory celebration across Coalition space was muted by the knowledge of what it had cost. Humanity had proved itself to be the galaxy's most effective warriors. But they had also shown what war truly meant. The peaceful species of the Coalition began to understand that their long era of safety had been possible only because no one had ever challenged them seriously. Now they knew what it took to defend that peace, and they would never forget the species that had been willing to pay the price for them. 2 years had passed since the final battle at the Devourer home cluster. The galaxy was rebuilding, but it was not the same galaxy that had existed before the war. The peaceful Coalition worlds now carried defense fleets and their children learned about concepts their parents had never needed to understand: courage, sacrifice, and the price of freedom. President Helen Matthews stood before the Coalition Grand Assembly on Crystal X Prime, surrounded by representatives from hundreds of worlds. The offer they had made was generous beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed of receiving. Full membership in the Coalition, access to technologies that could transform Earth into a paradise, and colonies on perfect worlds where humans would never again face hardship. The assembly hall was silent as Matthews prepared to give humanity's answer. The crystal walls caught and reflected light from dozens of different suns, representing all the worlds that had come together to offer humanity a place among the stars. "We are honored by your offer," Matthews said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "The technology you offer could eliminate disease, hunger, and death from natural causes on Earth. Your worlds could give our children lives of perfect safety and comfort." Admiral Korthok sat in the front row, his rainbow wings spread in anticipation. During the war, he had become humanity's closest friend among the Coalition species. He had learned to respect human courage, but he had never understood why they chose to live on such a dangerous world. "However," Matthews continued, "we must respectfully decline. Earth made us who we are, storms that threaten our cities, the earthquakes that split our continents, the diseases that challenge our medicine. These things taught us to be strong. We will not abandon the world that created us." A wave of confusion passed through the assembly. To the Coalition species, the human decision made no sense. Why would anyone choose hardship when comfort was available? Why would they stay on world that tried to kill them when paradise was offered freely? Secretary Velinara of the Peaceful Gardens rose from her seat, her flower-like form shifting to confused colors. "But your people could be so much happier on worlds like ours. Your children could grow up without fear, without struggle, without pain." Dr. Lisa Park, now humanity's chief scientific advisor to the Coalition, answered for her president. "Teaches us to be careful. Struggle makes us strong. Fear keeps us alive. Take those things away, and we stop being human." The Coalition delegates struggled to understand this concept. Their own species had evolved beyond such primitive concerns millions of years ago. They had built perfect societies on perfect worlds, free from the harsh realities that shaped human development. But the war had taught them something important. When the galaxy faced an enemy that could not be reasoned with, negotiated with, or bought off, only the humans had known how to respond. The Deathworlders had possessed the strength and determination to do what was necessary. Matthews continued her address. "We will share the galaxy with you as friends and allies. We will build stations and settlements throughout Coalition space, but our primary colonies will remain in the systems you consider too dangerous for intelligent life." This was already happening. Human settlements were spreading across the galaxy, but they were appearing in the strangest places. Humans had built cities in the radiation fields around neutron stars, on worlds with crushing gravity that would kill Coalition species instantly, and in systems where the solar wind could strip away unprotected atmospheres. Ambassador Tony Rodriguez had become humanity's first permanent representative to the Coalition Council. His office was on a space station that orbited between two gas giants, in a location where the gravitational stress would tear apart most alien ships. He had chosen the spot specifically because it reminded him of home. "The galaxy is a dangerous place," Rodriguez often told visiting Coalition dignitaries. "We choose to live in the dangerous parts because that is where we belong. When the next threat emerges from the cosmic dark, you will know where to find us." The Coalition had learned to value this human perspective. Their intelligence services, now employed human analysts who specialized in thinking like predators and survivors. Their diplomatic corps included human negotiators who understood that not all problems could be solved with words and good intentions. Dr. Park had established the Institute for Extreme Environment Studies on a moon that orbited a gas giant in a highly unstable system. Coalition scientists came there to learn how life could survive and thrive in conditions their species considered lethal. Her research teams included humans who had grown up in Earth's deepest ocean trenches, where the pressure could crush submarines. Others had been raised on the slopes of active volcanoes, in the hearts of hurricane zones, and in Arctic wastes where the cold could freeze exposed skin in seconds. Every environment teaches different lessons, Dr. Park explained to a group of visiting coalition researchers. The deep ocean teaches patience and careful planning. The mountains teach endurance and respect for natural forces. The storms teach flexibility and quick thinking. The aliens listened with fascination as humans described growing up in conditions that would have been extinction events for their own species. They began to understand that humanity's strength came not from superior technology or natural abilities, but from a lifetime of adaptation to impossible circumstances. The galaxy's military doctrine had changed completely since the end of war. Coalition defense forces now trained alongside human instructors who taught them concepts that had never existed in their vocabulary before the Devourers arrived. Colonel Maria Santos ran the joint training facility on the edge of Coalition space, where alien cadets learned human tactics alongside their traditional strategies. The facility was built on an asteroid that had been deliberately destabilized, creating an environment of constant low-level danger that kept everyone alert. Your species fight to win, Santos told a class of mixed coalition and human officers. Humans fight to survive. The difference is that winning assumes you have something to go back to. Survival means you create something new from whatever is left. The lessons were hard for the coalition species to learn. They had to overcome millions of years of evolution that told them to avoid danger, seek comfort, and preserve their lives. Above all else, but they were learning slowly that sometimes the greatest safety came from being prepared for the worst. Admiral Morrison now commanded the integrated defense fleet that patrolled the galaxy's outer rim. His flagship was a hybrid design that combined coalition technology with human engineering principles. It was not as beautiful as pure coalition vessels, but it could keep fighting long after they would have been forced to retreat. The fleet under Morrison's command was a symbol of the new galaxy that had emerged from the ashes of the Devourer. War. Human ships flew alongside coalition vessels, their crews working together despite coming from completely different evolutionary backgrounds. "We are not trying to make you into humans," Morrison told his mixed crew during their first mission. Briefing. "We are trying to help you become the best versions of yourselves when everything goes wrong." The patrols had already encountered several threats that the old coalition would have struggled to handle. Pirates who used stolen Devourer biotechnology, rogue AI systems that had learned to adapt their programming, and strange energy beings that fed on the life force of inhabited worlds. Each time, the combined fleet had responded with tactics that no single species could have developed alone. Coalition precision and human determination. Alien technology and Deathworlder instincts. Careful planning and desperate improvisation. The galaxy was safer now, but it was also more honest about the nature of safety. The coalition species had learned that peace was not a natural state that could be maintained through good intentions and advanced technology. It was something that had to be fought for, protected, and earned every single day in the deepest archives of the coalition library. Scholars had created a new section dedicated to the study of survival under extreme conditions. The official classification for humanity read, Apex Predator Species, evolved under maximum selective pressure. Recommended for alliance status. Under no circumstances attempt conquest. But below the official entry, someone had added a note in humanity's own language, "Here be dragons." Children throughout coalition space now grew up hearing stories about the humans and their impossible world. They learned about creatures who lived at the bottom of oceans deep enough to crush space stations, who built cities on the slopes of mountains that could explode without warning, and who considered lightning storms to be entertainment. When young, aliens asked their parents why the humans chose to live in such dangerous places. The answer was always the same. They are the ones who remember that the universe is dangerous, so the rest of us can forget. The stars were no longer dark, and the galaxy slept peacefully under the protection of those who had emerged from worlds that never allowed such luxury. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or saviors, but as guardians, who understood that the price of peace was eternal vigilance.